Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 2 of my model kit and story time videos. I don't have a title for these yet. By the time these videos are uploaded, I will, so I apologize for not including the title to the video in this introduction real quick. But anyway, in the previous episode, oops, that's not the piece I glued, is it? No, that's the piece I glued. Anyway, sorry. And in my previous video, we got into the introduction of the series and what it's going to be about and how it's going to be like. And this particular aircraft, the C-130J-30, like I said, the model that was at my base in Japan is the C-130J, not the C-130J-30. It's just a little shorter than the J-30. And I also talked about my introduction and my service in the U.S. Air Force. I didn't get into super detail. Kind of breezed over the fact that I've been into multiple locations. I mainly focus on Yokota Air Base, and what brought me to meeting the friends I have. You've heard some of them in my videos, and most of them you've heard during the stream. Ungodly, particularly recently, you'll know who he is because his Ungodly Rampage is his name, and he lives up to that name. So anyway, we left off talking about the wedding for Ungodly. But I'm just going to kind of wrap up the intro to my career and get a little more into the aircraft in this particular video. But like I said, I'll get more in depth with my career as I get into other airframes, because I have supported many airframes throughout my entire career, and some of them have more interesting stories to go hand in hand with that. Whereas the C-130, for me personally, like I said in the previous video, I don't have any super interesting stories to go with them, other than the fact that I flew on a C-130 when it took me to my deployment to Iraq. I keep saying Iraq. Like I said, I've dealt with them in Japan. I helped support like operations like Operation Christmas Drop. That's when we dropped like Christmas packages over islands in the Pacific. For some natives out there, we give them food and supplies and clothing and medical supplies, and we also drop toys for the children in the area. And a lot of the air crew on the aircraft usually dress up as Santa Claus, and they fly somewhat low enough so when they go out the tail, I'm not going to clip it together, but to give you an idea, the cargo ramp, which is right back here, they can lean out and the kids can kind of see that they look like Santa Claus as they push the cargo out the back. The village leaders know when we're going to be doing this, so they know to keep certain areas clear so we're not dropping packages on top of them. So don't think we're just maliciously shoving packages over Pacific Islander villages. We actually coordinate it, and it happens yearly. So, but anyway, to wrap up my introduction to my career, like I said, I enlisted in the Air Force actually in 2004. No, it was 2005, but it was in February 2005. I was in the delayed entry program. I was still in high school, so obviously I could not go off to basic training yet. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue these pieces as I get, because like I said, I'm trying to keep these videos somewhat short. I don't think I'm going to be able to keep them under 30 minutes, but I will do my best, I promise. So we're going to go ahead and glue the wheel well side to the other piece. I don't know the exact name of it, but I doubt this is how it actually assembles on the aircraft anyway, so it's not a huge deal. But anyway, but yeah, I was in the delayed entry program. I started back in February 2005. I was a senior in high school, under the age of 18, so I had to get parental permission to join the military. I actually originally wanted to go in the Army. My great-great and my great-grandfather both served in the Army, and I wanted to follow in their footsteps. My grandfather on my dad's side was, I call him Nono. He was in the Air Force up until Buck Sergeant. I think he served 4 years, and then he got out. He regrets getting out, and he's always been very adamant about making sure. There's been several times I thought about quitting, and he's been very sure to make sure I don't quit as well. But yes, sorry about the ums. It's going to happen a lot. I wanted to originally join the Army. My parents weren't super thrilled about the idea, especially about the timeline I was eligible to join, which was back in like 2004, like I said. So the Iraq War and the Afghan War they weren't like bloodbaths or anything at the time, but they weren't ideal for parents who would want to see their kids live past the age of 20. But I mean, like, and I mean that I'm gonna make jokes. One thing you're gonna realize: a lot of people in the military have dark humors. They've kind of developed dark sense of humors. So if that you're offended by such things, I apologize ahead of time. I'm not gonna change though, because that's who I am, and that's how I'm gonna be. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful. It's just I don't believe you should change who you are for me, and I should not have to change who I am for you. There we go. We get that piece glued in. I'm going to let that dry. The next piece is going to be going in. This is kind of like the cockpit area where the air crew would sit in anything. Obviously, it does not look like this in the C-130. It looks a little more detailed than that and a little more impressive than just a flat piece of plastic. It looks like these tabs need to stay there. But anyway, back to the story of why I joined. I've always wanted to join the Army. I love my country. I've always wanted to serve in the military. You can say I got brainwashed because I know a lot of people who are anti-military. You love to go there, but old John Wayne in World War II movies my dad showed me when I was a little definitely influenced that. Stories from my grandparents, my grandfather on my mom's side was in the Army. He went to Korea. My great grandfather on my dad's side, the one that really inspired me to join, was in World War II, Korea, Vietnam. I think Vietnam he never went in country. Korea he did, or was it the other way around? I don't quite remember. I always get those two wars screwed mixed up. I'm not. I love studying military history, but the Korean War, those conflicts weren't really on the top of my wanting to study list. Okay, look, they're giving me specific places for these to clip in, and on this drawing, I guess I just gotta hold it there and hope for the best by the looks of this. That's not okay with me, but I guess I don't really have much of a choice. I don't have really good markings here. I guess this is what I got myself into. I got right there. Okay, so I gotta get this in here. Anyway, my great grandfather, my dad's side, is the one of the main reasons I joined. He was in the Army Air Corps when he first joined in World War II, and then during some point in World War II, he was asked by his commander if he wanted to join a specialized unit. We don't know what that unit is. We have our we've been speculating what they might be. We came to conclusions at the beginning of the Green Berets. We haven't been able to confirm that because my great grandfather would not get into detail about it, not because it was classified or anything, just because he did not really like to talk about the combat aspect of his service, with good reason. He lost good buddies. He saw things he wished he never saw, and no man would really want to just brag about things like that. So. Or men to talk about, they've actually encouraged men to start, and men and women now, to start talking about such things because it helps them fight issues with PTSD. But at that time when my great grandfather served, that really wasn't that well known, PTSD, so they didn't really know about wanting to talk about it. So they would much rather keep it to themselves. But anyway, he's asked to join a specialized unit. And he basically replied to the commander, I believe I don't have much of a choice, do I? He goes, no, not really, but I thought I'd ask anyway. So he was a B-17 mechanic up until that point, and he was for a while. He ended up leaving that and training, from what I understand, on a German-occupied mountain in World War II. I don't know where. He never said. He just mentioned he trained on said mountain. The Germans were there. The Germans did not know they were there, but they knew the Germans were there. And then he later got jump certified and jumped into Normandy and Africa. I don't know if he jumped in Africa. He did. He was in Africa. I don't know if he jumped in Africa. He was also in Sicily. He was part of the Sicily operations. I really need more water. Should have got more water before I started this video. So he served some time in many theaters during World War II. He was involved with Bastogne. Like I said, he didn't really talk about it, but the only things I really know about Bastogne is that's when he met Patton for the second time. He met Patton for the first time in Africa. I do know when he was doing the drop into Normandy, he did lose some good friends. My great grandmother brought it up at one family gathering, and he was not happy with her. He ended up basically telling her to be quiet because he did not want to talk about it. Um, I don't know the reasoning. None of us do because it never came back up after that. I'm currently trying to put the cockpit piece in here. My fingers are in the way. I don't know how I'm going to get it to stay there. Should have probably got regular cement. It probably dries faster. Okay. I just got to be careful. Hopefully I got enough in there. We'll find out soon enough. It's not really sitting in there very well. Let's see if I can squeeze. No. Okay. I guess we'll put it on both inside the aircraft and on this little O-ring piece that they gave with the lid is useless, and that's exactly why I put the blanket on my desk because I just got glue on the desk. Yeah, he met Patton in Germany or Africa. He was actually, and I think he saw him in Sicily. I vaguely remember him telling the story. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Patton. A lot of you are probably too young. I'm sorry, I've got my hand way out of the camera. Way too young to even know about the movie Patton with George C. Scott. I'm not putting that one ring back on there, not until it's very close. It's a great movie. It's long, so if you're not into long movies, I don't recommend watching it. But I loved it. I'm also a sucker for such movies. But anyway, there's a scene in that movie where Patton is shooting at a German plane with his revolvers. And he basically said, I'm paraphrasing because the words he exactly said are not YouTube friendly. And though I don't really care about offending people, I just don't want to. I know YouTube is willing to ban channels, especially small ones when they start. So, and let me make it very clear: I don't go out of my way to offend people, but I also understand there are people who are super easily offended, and I'm not gonna stress over trying to make sure I never offend said people because then I would never be able to speak because almost everything offends somebody these days. I'm going to try again to slide that back in here, and maybe I will hold it a little longer. Well, I'll hold out, continue the story. But he did see Patton shoot at the German plane that was doing strafing runs on Patton's unit in Sicily. He ran out of his headquarters building, heard the strafing run happening, stood in the middle of the road, and just pointed his revolver up into the sky and fired. My great-grandfather saw that. Now, I believe that was actually technically the second time he saw Patton, but the time he met Patton, the first time was in Africa. He's leaned up against a truck, eating his lunch or dinner or something. He was sitting on the ground up against the truck. A boot stepped into his food without looking up. He says, "You need to get that boot out of my food." Again, paraphrasing because cussing's not okay on YouTube. But anyway, you need to get that boot out of my food. And Patton said, "Son, do you know who I am?" Well, he recognized Patton's voice, so he did in fact know who he was. But he knew he was already committed, so he said, "No, sir, I do not know who you are, nor do I care. All I know is you got your boot in my food, and I'm hungry, I'm tired, and I'm dirty. I just want to eat." Well, Patton just kind of laughed, took his boot out of his food, and went on his way. That's the extent of the story my great-grandfather told me. Whether any more developed after that, I don't know. I always got a kick out of that. And then the second time he actually met Patton, he was doing some low crawling drills. That's when you're on your stomach, dragging yourself through the ground to avoid enemy fire or a certain obstacle so you're not getting hurt or caught or anything like that. And all of a sudden he feels a boot. Again, it's the boot. It's always the boot. Patton loved using his boots. Put his boot on his butt and slammed him into the ground. And said, "Son, you need to keep that." Patton said to my great-grandfather, "Son, you need to keep that boot keep that butt out of the air." You know, the one spot I've been shot, and my great-grandfather replied with, "I'm assuming your butt." Yeah, that's a pretty good guess, and that's why Patton was throwing the fit, and he was correct. Patton said, "Yes, so you need to make sure when you low crawl, you keep your butt out of the air, and make sure you keep yourself clear of any." Sorry, my screen just went black. and I want to make sure I don't lose my place. Um, so that's the second time my great grandfather actually met Patton. He's seen Patton 3 times that we're aware of, but that's the second time he actually met Patton. Uh, he he always told the best stories, whether the military related or not. I was always super excited when my great grandfather came to visit. This is number 93 and 66. Well, 66 is right here. So I gotta open up another pack. I don't like to have to open up so many packs already. I'd rather keep the amount of packs I have opened limited. I can't see the tag. This is 67, so I need 93. 93 will be this piece, I'm assuming? Sure is. So this is 93. This is the main cargo floor. You can't, I don't know if you can really see the details. I thought about painting it, but I might end up painting this. It depends how well you get. No, because this gives me blocking the view. So I'm not really sure when they have details. I guess for avid model kit enthusiasts, maybe they want to make sure they get all their details in there as best as they can. But yeah, so that's my story of my great grandfather. He told me so many stories about being in the military and different things he's been through and experienced. He's been to Iceland, and some interesting stories about that. If you guys are interested in some of those stories, I'd be more than happy to tell you. But I figured those can be more focused around the current, more appropriate period appropriate aircraft. The C-130, actually, I have it up here. Started production in 1956, and is still under. Oh, I'm sorry. Production 1954, service in 1956. Yeah, no. First flight was in 1954, and then that's when they got into full production. It was 1956. That's per Wikipedia. I always take what's on Wikipedia with a grain of sand because of, well, it's Wikipedia. But I heard overall they're not bad at being accurate. So, where was I though? Yeah, if I get more stories of my great grandfather, I will tie them with model kits that would be more appropriate to his time period of whatever story I'm going to be telling you. And I'll do my best with it. I'll probably have to write those up because going off of them are on the fly because he passed away in 2010, so I haven't seen him in 10 years, obviously. So his stories are gonna be a little hazy to me. I barely remember what I ate for breakfast in the morning these days. I'm gonna want to do the disc next. No, I think I want to do the floor next. That's gonna be a pain in the butt. It looks like they got grooves. What the hell with that? Make sure it fits in here. So the edge of this cargo platform needs to line up with these two. Let me get my knife, the X-Acto knife, right in there, right here. Make sure they line up in there before I glue. So like I said, I'm gonna make sure these line up before I just start gluing pieces together, because then once it's in there, I will have to pretty much break them apart, and I'd rather not do that. I mean, this kit wasn't expensive, but I have yet to finish a model kit, and I would like to actually do that for a change. This grooves where the wheel wells fit into. I don't know how well you can see it. It is right in here. So that will help you guide. So I'm going to glue it up against the wheel well, the floor of the plane, and the wall of the plane. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, and my great-great-grandfather, on the Ancona side, well, on my dad's side, kind of let that slip out of the bag, but I'm not super worried about it. People want to find out who I am, they'll be able to do it. These days, it's not that hard. Nobody believes in privacy anymore. He was first generation American. He came over from Sicily at the age of 10. Loved America ever since. Helped pay for the rest of the Anconas to come over. That did. By getting a job back before child labor laws were a thing. And he came through Ellis Island. And as he grew up in the United States, he fell in love with the United States. In fact, he fell in love with the United States so much so he would actually get into fistfights with anybody that talked poorly. I'm gonna try to keep near the mic. I'm sorry, because the way how thin this cargo floor is, I can't really set it down without accidentally gluing it to the table. So he would get in fights with anybody that talked poorly about the United States. And when World War I broke out, he signed up and ended up being involved with the same battle as the Lost Battalion, and I think it was in the Ardennes. Or is it the Black Forest, or is the Black Forest is the Ardennes? I'm not super familiar with World War I history. My interests have always been around World War II, and you can take that as it is, make your jokes, whatever. I've talked that up a lot. Have to do with my great grandfather, because I met my great grandfather when I was a baby, but who remembers meeting people when they were babies? So I'm more familiar and apt to have. I'm very sloppy with this, and I'm sure there are people watching cringing as I glue this piece. So I'm more apt around World War II history than I am World War I. So my family's history in the military is a huge reason why I wanted to join, and I'm very grateful that I did. There's days I wish I still went in the Army. I actually haven't gotten that far in my story, but I originally did go to the Army recruiter. And my dad, because I was under the age of 18, had to sign permission before I could actually enlist. And he said he was not going to until I promised I would go see the Air Force recruiter. And against what I wanted, I kind of huffed and puffed, and I didn't really throw a fit, but I wasn't super thrilled with the idea. I was like, I don't want to do the Air Force. I think he knew I really liked aircraft. I've always liked planes and jets and helicopters. I'm putting the cargo floor in right now. So forgive me as I pull these out of frame every now and then. I want to make sure I'm putting these pieces in right before I let the glue sit. But I think he was going to use that to his advantage to convince me to go to the Air Force, and it did eventually work. We went to the Army recruiter first, and they were all gung-ho and ready to recruit me. Again, this is back during, not really the beginning of the Iraq and Afghanistan war, but it was close enough to where the Army was very willing to take anybody. And in the way, the Army still is, but not as much, because we're not well, we weren't really struggling, but you get what I'm saying. We needed the bodies. They needed the bodies. It was kind of more of a concern of theirs to try to get people recruited in at the time than it is now. So they were super excited about another prospect to join, and they were willing to have me sign the paperwork. They had 2 recruiters working. On the Air Force only had 1, because the Air Force only needs 1, because the Air Force recruiting numbers are pretty good. Were pretty good, and I'm assuming they probably still are pretty good. My recruiter was the number 1 recruiter in the state, and he didn't really have to try to do that. He literally, when I walked in there after I got done meeting with the Army, again at my dad's request. Do I want to paint this? They don't. Oh, crap. I'm dropping the pieces everywhere. See, okay, so they got, I don't know if this is going to come up on the camera. They got notch lines in there, and it looks like ladders and doors, which do exist on the C-130. But I don't know where they're, I'm going to assume this is intended. I'm trying to remember what it looked like when I was in the plane. Was the ladder on the left-hand side or the right-hand side? Crap. They don't show it in the instructions. And I should technically paint this before I glue it. At least before I glue the halves together, I should paint it. Yeah. I don't know if it's the correct answer, but I am going to glue it with the lines facing the cockpit window. Sorry, again, I'm pulling it out of frame to see how it all fits together. I have to push up on that cargo floor to make sure it fits in there as flush as possible. Don't really see the door. And that cockpit looks uneven, because it is. It's already set. It's okay. Well, you gotta learn somehow, right, guys? Oh, it's getting warm in here. I have to turn that. Oh, you know what? I don't have my Nest thermostat anymore because of thunderstorms. But yeah, I saw that I walked into the Air Force recruiter's office, and he goes, "So you want to join the Air Force?" I says, "Yeah, my dad wanted me to talk to you guys before I signed the paperwork with the Army." He was, "Okay, cool. Well, I got an appointment with my daughter that I need to get to, so I will see you. So I'll talk to you later." And he just left me in his office. Didn't tell me to leave. Didn't ask me to get out of the office. Didn't shut off the lights or anything. Didn't shut the door. Just walked right out. Looked at my dad. I go, "Well, Dad, I saw the Air Force recruiter. It looks like I'm going Army." And he's like, "Anthony, can you please come back and give him another chance?" Long story short, I gave him another chance, and 14 years later, I'm in the Air Force. And I ended up going off to Lackland on October 11th, or October 10th? Yeah, I think it was October 10th when I left. 2005. My official enlistment date is October 11th, so maybe that's when I went. October 10th, 2005. Or, I'm sorry, October 11th, 2005. And we flew from Portland, Maine to O'Hare International Airport in Chicago. And from there we went to San Antonio, Texas, which is where Lackland Air Force Base is, the home of the Air Force, where a airman's career begins. At that point, we're just called trainees, or I'm sure they probably don't use this term anymore, but rainbow flight. Rainbows. And it's not as in a gay sense. We're called rainbows because we're all in civilian clothes in all different colors of the rainbow. I'm talking about the clothing before you guys get all upset. We don't look the same. We don't match in any way, shape, or form. We all had our own different senses of style and tastes. So that's not good. I probably should have looked this first. So we did not look like a coherent unit at all. So, and the Air Force's goal, or any military branch's goal, is to get you to conform as one and not be individuals anymore. Some of you may not like that, which is probably why you're not in the military. And it's not like a socialistic or establishment mentality. You just got to understand. We got to be able to learn to love, or not really love, but trust and understand one another if we are going to stand side by side one another and possibly on the field of combat, which, yes, in the Air Force is less likely than the other branches, but it can and does happen. I had an opportunity to do convoy runs in Iraq when I was there. So if we're going to be able to trust each other, we need to learn to put our differences aside. Glued the wrong side. Put our differences aside and actually learn to work as a group and not as individuals. That we want to take our individual strengths and learn how to use them for the benefit of the group. So we were rainbows. We were not in a group yet. We were still individuals, and we discussed the TIs, training instructors. They're called drill instructors in the Army, and I believe in the Marines as well. So we discussed them because we were individuals, and we're not supposed to be individuals. We're supposed to be a cohesive group, and I am failing miserably of getting this seated in there like it should be, because maybe I think the cargo floor is not leaving. I am bad at this already. I thought I got it in there just fine earlier. What happened? There we go. So we got to Lackland, I think, at 5 in the morning. We're exhausted, we're worn out, we're tired, we didn't want to do anything, we just wanted to go to bed. But nope, we were just getting started. We all organized, got our stuff together, found out what units we were going to. Mine was the 320th Training Squadron. It was called the Rock at the time, Alcatraz. And Gators was our mascot. I don't know if that's still the case now. I heard they've changed around the training units a lot since I've been in. And I was flight 043. And we were a mix of career fields from all over the country. So a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot. There was a decent group from Maine that ended up in my flight, but not everybody. A lot of, they were from all over the place, all walks of life, different flavors of the rainbow. Stick with the rainbow terminology that the military loved to, or the Air Force loved to use when we got to basic. All right. Well, I'm not doing so well with getting this set in, and it bothers me. I got it to sit perfectly before I glued it, but now everything's glued and drying in place. But maybe it won't be noticeable. I don't think it's going to be. What do you guys think? How's that look to you? Be gentle. It's my first time. But yeah, and then that's when I started basic training. So I think that's about going to do it for this first video. I know I'm not really getting a whole lot done, but again, I'm trying to take this slow, mainly because I'm new to model kit building. Maybe these will get faster as I get better at this. But we already got this side. I mean, look at that. I'm pretty impressed with that. I'm sure a lot of you got a lot to criticize about it. I'm going to probably paint this stuff. Maybe. Though, I use... Crap, I do have spray paint. I might have to go pick up some paint to paint in there. And there's the wheel well. I got the wheel well over here, too. But yeah, that's the beginning of my career. Just before I went off to Yokota Air Base to Japan. And I definitely got some stories to tell you guys in basic training. I'll tell you what. I have definitely not seen it all, but in the basic, I saw a lot of it. Just seeing how that all is going to fit. I'm not going to clip it together. So, I mean, that's roughly what it's going to look like. But yeah, a lot of the reason why I've joined is love of country, love of service, and love of military-themed things. Aircraft was a big part of that. I loved aircraft when I was a kid. Loved going to the air show. And then my family's history. My mom's got uncles that are brothers, I should say, my uncles that served. I have grandparents that have served, and I got cousins that have served. Now I'm serving. It's my time. So if you guys are enjoying this, let me know down below. Again, I welcome all feedback, all good feedback, bad feedback. All feedback is good feedback, in my opinion, even the trolly ones, because there's probably some truth to what they have to say, and I can choose to listen or ignore them, whether they like it or not. So let me know what you guys think below. If you got any comments or tips about how to properly build a model kit, and if I'm making you cringe with what I'm doing, just let me know as well. And I hope to see you guys all in the next one.